Welcome to the eternal student of A Course in Miracles. I was going to say something clever to welcome you, and now I forgot it. Anyway, welcome is the most important word here. And I kindly ask you to click the button below and like, and also subscribe. And comments are more than welcome. They give me a lot of input and inspiration. Questions, whatever. Maybe I can't answer them, but there are an excellent ground for contemplation. This is about contemplating the lessons in A Course in Miracles. And today we are already on lesson 4. Every time I film this, it's the first time I read it for the day. I haven't read it the day before or this morning. I've been working today, doing many things, cooking food and all that life contains. And as you know, if you have heard the previous lessons, I have studied this book for a long time, more than 3 decades. So, of course, I have read the lessons many, many, many times. But when I shoot the videos, I'm fresh. I know what kind of chapter we are in and which sequence more or less. But I try to refresh. I have an empty mind as long as I can. As far as I can. Okay, so I will read the lesson. You know, this is a journey we do together. I'm a student. Maybe you're student, teachers, or I don't know. But we're exploring. I'm exploring together with you. I have already read it in Swedish because the book here is in Swedish. And I'm reading from my device. I have ordered the book in English, so I will soon get it. Lesson 4. These thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place. I'm very tempted to, and I'm going to give in for the temptation to look at lesson number 3, because this seems very, very, very much identical to lesson 3, but it's not, because lesson 3 was about understanding. I don't understand. Now we are going to the thoughts that come up in my head. These thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things I see in this room. Now I got it. So far, the thoughts, they don't mean anything right now. Maybe it's wrong. There is no right and wrong, but maybe it's unnecessary to put in right now. These thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things I see in this room. Okay. These thoughts don't mean anything. They are like the things I see in this room. Pause. Restful place inside. So if they don't mean anything, why do I utter them? Why do I think them? Why do I have a fly flying around my head right now? Maybe you see it, and it does not mean anything, but it is bothering me a bit. But it's like that. This is definitely funny. It's a sign, probably, that our thoughts are like flies, annoying flies, buzzing around the head. And maybe they will kiss you. They will think your head is some kind of curious planet, and they will land on it, on you. It didn't. We'll see. Or maybe it's just a fly interesting in miracles. Anyway. Hello, fly. Now it landed on my green sweater. These thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things I see in this room. I will continue with the bread text and see what comes up. Unlike the preceding ones, these exercises do not begin with the idea for the day. In these practice periods, begin with noting the thoughts that are crossing your mind for about a minute. In these practice periods, begin with noting the thoughts that are crossing your mind for about a minute. If I sat with my eyes closed for a minute, I will lose you. So I will not be quiet for a whole minute. Then apply the idea to them. Okay, so I will apply the idea to my thoughts. I will go on. If you are already aware of unhappy thoughts, use them as subjects for the idea. Okay, so I have what do I have? This fly is friendly. It does not bother me at all. It's just sitting on my hand, walking back and forth. And that's okay. If you are already aware of unhappy thoughts, use them as a subject for the idea. Do not, however, select only the thoughts you think are bad. I shall not select the thoughts I think are bad. So I will welcome every thought. You will find, if you train yourself to look at your thoughts, that they represent such a mixture that, in a sense, none of them can be called good or bad. Quotation marks in the text. This is why they do not mean anything. It makes sense. In selecting the subjects for the application of today's idea, the usual specificity is required. Do not be afraid to use good thoughts as well as bad. None of them represents your real thoughts, which are being covered up by them. Wow! They are being covered up by them. My real thoughts are covered up by them. I'm not going on an intellectual journey here. I'm just reading, open as I'm an open person. And I try to understand. And that's only a thought. It's not good, nor is it bad. It's just a thought. So the good ones are but shadows of what lies beyond. And shadows make sight difficult. Yes, they do. The bad ones are blocks to sight and make seeing impossible. You do not want either. That's true, I do not want either. Now, this is a major exercise I'm reading now, and will be repeated from time to time in somewhat different form. The aim here is to train you in the first steps toward the goal of separating the meaningless from the meaningful. The aim here is to train me in the first steps toward the goal of meaningless from meaningful. It's a first attempt in the long-range purpose of learning to see the meaningless as outside you and the meaningful within. I like that. It's also the beginning of training your mind to recognize what is the same and what is different. I'm enjoying this. In using your thoughts for application of the idea for today, identify each thought by the central figure or event it contains. And here comes an example where one can fill in the blank. I don't know if you are familiar with the book. In the book, for every lesson, not in the beginning, but most of them, do have an exercise where there is a statement of something, and one can fill in the blank, a name or a thing or a phenomenon or whatever that annoys you. So I will go into this a little meditation. I call them meditations, not exercises. Okay, so this thought about fill in the blank does not mean anything. It's like the things I see in this room, on the street, through the window and everything. Okay, so I will fill in a blank. An annoying thing I will fill in the blank. What shall I pick? This thought about... I will not take anything heavy personal. Of course I have heavy personal issues and problems, life problems and things to solve and all that. And as this is not a therapy for anyone, and it's not a laundry of my life situation, and we all have them. We all know about this. So I will just take any example. Maybe I would just... it's just a fantasy. That could be, or I had it before. So this thought about my brother-in-law. I actually do not have a brother-in-law yet, but and I never did. But let's say I have somebody and I'm really annoyed. So I will try where this is taking us. So, and his name is Jim. This thought about Jim does not mean anything. It's like the things I see in this room. Even though there is no Jim, there are hundreds, maybe thousands, maybe millions of memories inside me, in my cells, in my thoughts, in my brain, of very uncomfortable situations and people and imaginations that I had. Maybe things didn't even occur, but I used to be, and I still am, not as good as I used to be. But it happens. I used to have conversations in my head. What if that kind of person said that to me? Maybe that person never even lived. Or it could be people living. And I go, if she will say that to me, I will answer this. And blah, blah, blah. I'm sure there are one or two out there who can relate to this. So just because I'm making something easy up right now to investigate this lesson 4 does not mean that that I have inner peace, or that I have found the light, or am enlightened. Maybe for a second or two, here and there, we are all enlightened. Then at least I fall back in some kind of living sleep. And that's fun, because there are books like this, and people out there listening, and people sharing. So there is definitely a way out of this sleep into the light. So Jim is fictionary, but I'm still annoyed at him, very much so. But it doesn't mean anything. This thought about Jim and everything that he did to me and said to me, and what he will say tomorrow when we meet with the family, and he will drink too much and talk blah blah. Fiction now. But these things we all have experienced or seen or read about. So this thing that arises in me, adrenaline comes, and like I want to get out of this situation, or I want to go into awe. I really contract inside, and I feel in a weird way, in a perverted way, good about being a victim of Jim. All this, no, I don't have to. It's like the things I see in this room, they don't mean anything. So my raging, if that is a word, they don't mean anything. Me being upset, angry, that does not mean anything. Now here comes some text, some help. I can also use the idea for a particular thought that I recognize as harmful. I have no problem. I have a lot of harmful thoughts about me, myself, and I, and life, and my many things. I have a stash of them. So for me, this text tells me this practice is very useful. I agree 100% it's useful. Because this practice is useful, but is not a substitute for the more random procedures to be followed for the exercises. This practice is useful, but it is not a substitute for the more random procedures to be followed for the exercises. Do not, however, examine your mind for more than a minute or so. I did. Now here comes a hard one. Here comes a tricky one. I have already read the sentence, and now I will read it to you, and you will probably, if you heard the previous lessons, me investigating them, know why this is a bit hard. Because the meaning says, the book claims here, that you are too inexperienced as yet to avoid a tendency to become pointlessly preoccupied. This is why I found this book provoking when I first got it. Not when I first got it, for years after. And still comes up, what do you say? It comes up, it rises in me. Even if I use funny English words, I'm sure everybody understands what I mean. I am too inexperienced as yet to avoid a tendency to become pointlessly preoccupied. Yeah. It makes sense, it's true. The difference now is from when I was 10 years or 15 years or 20 years younger, is that is okay with me. I'm not yet experienced enough for something good, for something that will take me on the most, has taken me already and is still the most wonderful journey. And this is not a journey only when I read this wonderful book. It's a journey that I take part of myself in books, and sometimes when I'm able to go to listen to somebody like Eckhart Tolle or Muji or Sri Ravi Shankar or Byron Katie, or I listen on YouTube for hours and hours throughout the years. People not only guiding me, through this book, but there are so many ways. I have chosen this one, spiritual ways and ways to wisdom and heavenly peace inside. There are many, not only one, of course. This is one, and it's readable, and then it's tangible, and it is, and that's why I've chosen it. So it's okay that I'm not experienced. I'm too inexperienced, and that's why I'm doing this. I'm a student. Further, since these exercises are the first of their kind, you may find a suspension of judgment in connection with thoughts particularly difficult. Hooray! Yes, I do. Further, since these exercises are the first of their kind, you may, talking to me, that's okay. You may find the suspension of judgment. Did you notice how I pronounced judgment? Judgment. In connection with thoughts particularly difficult. Do not repeat these exercises more than 3 or 4 times during the day. We will return to them later. A lot of reading now in this lesson 4. This lesson is like a threshold to pass, and one can always hesitate. Maybe the threshold is high. Will I climb over it and get into a new room? Yes, I certainly will. Because it's fun. There are good things when I go ahead. And no one is telling me, and I mean this is in a way that I welcome, to be told that I'm not experienced and I don't understand and so on. Now, so no, I mean, tell me, because that's how it is, and that's a great blank field to be in. Lately is the last few years, that runs along with me reading willingly about scientific landwinnings on the brain, what the human brain is. It's not something that dies. As we used to think, that the gray cells are dying if we drink and we live and we get older and we don't exercise, and it's a journey towards some kind of brain lack of gray cells. No, it's more plastic. The brain is scientists have neurologists and people who are really on a high level researching on the human brain and the capacity. The brain is plastic and it renews itself. It's more to see it, to look at, as I understand it, as a muscle that if you train it, it gets stronger. And where am I going with this? Yes, it's also a kind of an enemy, this brain of ours that is so fascinating. For example, going back to lesson 4 now about these thoughts, they don't mean anything, and these thoughts about Jim or myself, Teresa, because I sometimes jump on myself, and I'm not that friendly to myself. It's a troubleshooting machine, the brain. I will not use bad words here, but it's a garbage. I was about to use another word, but it's a garbage machine. And I said to a friend the other week that if I had somebody in my home who lived here and who told me things that my brain tells me, I would tell that person to leave immediately and not come back and never call me, because it's so rude and it's so loveless and unkind. Not as it used to be. It used to be much worse. This journey of not believing everything we think frees us from this. Destructive thoughts come up in the brain as self-produced or as a reaction of something that happened or somebody said something or whatever. But these thoughts, they are around. They will be around. They're there. I mean, my brain is being thought, literally, by something itself. Once it had a purpose, of course, in the cave stage, we all know that. What was that movement in that bush? Problem. What was that? Is this piece of meat good? Maybe that one is better. So there is an evolutionary purpose, of course, of this troubleshooting muscle in our heads, though it does not make us feel so happy. So they don't mean that much. They don't mean that as much as we think. And I love that. That is how I understand these steps that we are taking, that this book is helping me to take about my perception of the world. And there is a wonderful gift, as I said. I've been studying this with my very, very different personality types that I've been through the years, and the journey of maturing as a human being. So I look at it with different eyes. Of course, I can look at it with different eyes depending on how I feel that day or what kind of life situation, whatever weak situation I have. I know that the gift from this is when we get to know the perception that we are able to, we create the world depending on how we perceive it. And I don't really understand what I'm saying now, but this is the fun. This is the journey. So now I will ask the crew behind the camera about reflections on this lesson number 4.
Yeah, it's very interesting listening to the lesson. Very calm sort of feeling spreads through me anyway when I listen to it. I like that you mentioned that we as people are being thought by ourselves or by something, And it's interesting that we all also have this feeling of sometimes, occasionally, probably for most people more than occasionally, we tend to feel a bit lost in the real world, of many things that we cannot understand, things that we think we understand, and then it turned out that we didn't. But it's interesting that we get this feeling that we are, when we look into it in a spiritual or psychological way, that we perceive our reality and our thoughts control us and we control them. It goes both ways, and you reach the conclusion, as you said, that we are being thought by ourselves, but also by, it feels like, at least something else. So there's a connectivity there with the whole, life, the universe, and everything, that we are being thought by something. Maybe it's called God, or maybe just the universe or something else, but I felt I felt good hearing you say that. And the text certainly makes my thoughts at least run in that direction. So yeah.
May I ask something? Maybe I misunderstood. When you said that in you, it awakens some nice feeling that we are being thought by something else outside us. Could you? Did I get it wrong? Connection with the whole. I love that. It's a Jungian idea of something friendly, nice, wonderful. Not a conspiracy like, we're being thought of something, or like this. What was this film with Keanu Reeves? What was it? Matrix. It's not. I'm not going into that. I know it's sometimes mentioned, but we don't really mean that, I think. Anyway. Well, I'm being thought by myself, and I love the idea that we are all together in this too, in a wonderful way, not in a depending way. Or we need each other, of course, and we recognize each other in each other. And when we meet, we renew ourselves, and when we have conversations, with dialogues, we are giving birth to each other. I love the philosopher Buber, Martin Buber, 19th century philosopher, German. And I know the sentence is in Swedish, and I will translate it in English. I hope it will come out beautiful as I read it in Swedish, that it is in the meeting of another human being that we are being born as humans. It's beautiful. And thoughts are not me. I am not my thoughts. And as you said, dear crew member, we are part of each other, and we are part of something wonderful. Otherwise, I wouldn't sit here reading this, and you wouldn't listen. So, thoughts are not dangerous, but they are annoying. I'll try to remember that when I'm upset next time. Thank you for listening, and please comment, talk to me, and subscribe, and click the button that you like, and so happy to be here with you. Thank you for being students, fellow students and friends.